everybody. I've got to look in the right camera. I'm looking in this camera. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you this way. Man, do I miss you. We all miss you. We miss gathering, but like I've said a few times, I'm thankful at the very least that we can get together like this. Today's going to be a little bit different than normal. I said on our mail, the newsletter, the MailChimp newsletter that I sent out yesterday, that we're going to give some announcements and then I'm going to end with a message on the back end. I'm not going to do that. I am going to give announcements, and then on the back end, I'm going to make a weird transition, and we're going to talk about the membership covenant. Last week we talked about the one another's. We're going to talk about what that looks like in practical terms at Midtown, and so it'll make sense when we get there, but before that, things to be up to speed on. I'll just kind of lay out a bunch of announcements one at a time. I'm really excited about 95% of this. Obviously, there's this overall umbrella under the COVID restrictions that we're dealing with, but in the midst of that, and in spite of that, and perhaps because of that, a lot of good things are going on. And so I'm really fired up, really encouraged as we head towards Christmas, as we head towards our launch in January. Speaking of Christmas, specifically Christmas Eve, want to let you know that we will be uploading a YouTube episode for Christmas Eve. We'll put it on the site on the 24th in the morning. You can watch us whenever you want to watch us. We're going to try to put some music together. We're going to do some readings. You're going to hear from me on a Christmas Eve message. So make sure if you haven't subscribed already, haven't gone on to our YouTube channel, that you do that. Also, want to put out a huge thanks for all of you who have contributed to our Fleming Christmas project. Man, so much good stuff has gone on. Over $2,000 raised, tons of socks, tons of hand cream, tons of Timmy Ho's cards have come in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All of that's getting delivered tomorrow. If you watch this on Sunday, it's getting delivered on Monday. So thank you on behalf of Laura Campa, who's given a lot of time and energy to this, but I know others are involved as well. Thank you on behalf of the people that are just point leadership. This is just a great love offering. It's a great reach out to Fleming that we pray will lead to more opportunities, and ultimately opportunities to proclaim the gospel, share the gospel, make inroads, but in the meantime, doing what we can to love on our community. And so we're fired up about that. Also, as I mentioned, we are launching January 24th. That's not news to you, but as you know, all things are closed as of now. And we are hopeful, as I know you're hopeful too, that by the time we launch on the 24th of January, that things will open up, at least to allowing us to gather in groups of 50. If that is the case, then, things are easier for us. We will launch with several gatherings, 3 gatherings of 50 on the 24th. But if not, if everything remains the same, we're going to still launch. We're going to launch virtually. We're going to do the best we can in that, but we are going to launch regardless. We're basically right now, to kind of fill you in, we're working on 3 different scenarios, which makes it kind of difficult. We're working on scenario 1, meaning scenario 1 is we will remain closed, so we will launch virtually. Scenario 2, we'll be able to open up with groups of 50. And then scenario 3, which would be fantastic, is open up totally, but we're working on all 3, and we're going to do it, like I said, the best we can in that. Tied to that, what we're going to be doing and sending out in January to you via our newsletter. We'll also embed it in our website, which will launch. We're hoping that it launches by the end of this week. Just working on last minute details. We're putting out a survey. We're trying to get a sense of who is going to be a part of Midtown. What are they thinking about? Who are they? But really, one of the biggest parts of that survey will have to do with those of you who have kids that are in our kids ministry sort of age group. Because when we launch, if we can launch in January with groups of 50, we're going to launch our kids ministry downstairs in our newly renovated space. We're going to have separate entrances, separate bathrooms, separate check-ins, all of that, so parents can drop off their kids, go upstairs, take in the gathering, and then pick up their kids with that outside of the door that's off the parking lot. But what we want to hear from you parents is if that's of interest to you, because some of you may not want to do that. And we understand. Some of you may not feel comfortable, putting your kids down in a separate zone. You'll want to know about, our protocol, which Heather is working on. We'll get it out to you. But we just need to know numbers. We need to know interest. We need to know what our needs are. And so especially families, moms, dads, those of you who have kids, when that survey goes out, which will come out sometime the second week of January, fill it out, send it in. We'll make sure that you know that it's out, but take the time to fill it out, so that will help us tremendously. Additionally, we can only do, in our kids ministry, we can only do what we can based on how many volunteers we have. So if we don't have enough volunteers based on some of our needs, we will only roll out what we can. And so I just share that with you to have you consider whether that's a ministry that you should be involved in. God is calling you to it. And so again, just be praying about that. Speaking of our kids ministry, just to let you know, the renovation of the kids space is progressing nicely. We're at a stage where the mudding and taping of the walls has taken place. Priming and painting will begin this week, and then the flooring will take place right thereafter. And so we're really excited. We're sort of at the design stage. We're at the decoration stage almost, which is a fun stage. Heather is working tremendously hard on that, working with other people to figure out, to make sure the design stuff is taken care of. Come January the 24th, be praying for her. One of the difficulties, again, tied into this time is we had a lot of plans and goals of having more work parties, inviting you in to help us with things. We can't do that. And so we're somewhat handcuffed. And so just be gracious with us. We want to follow proper protocol, do what we're called to do, but we also have some needs that need to take place. And so we're working hard on that. Even though we're closing in terms of gatherings on, the 13th and then the 24th, this place is going to be very busy. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on between Christmas and our launch on the 24th, especially with a lot of the work tied into our kids' space, but other stuff as well. In addition, like I said, a lot of announcements today. Our hope, as soon as the renovations of the kids' space is finalized, that we will begin we'll begin the renovations thereafter of our upstairs meeting space and office space. I am excited to let you know that thus far we have raised almost $500,000 in gifts and donations towards our renovations. It's unbelievable. By way of partner churches, by way of donors, we've been able to raise enough money that will take care of our renovation costs tied into our kids' space, our renovation costs for upstairs, and then some of the facelift stuff that we want to do in the building and outside of the building, some of our startup costs. We're absolutely overjoyed and couldn't be more thankful for that. When I talk about other costs, startup costs, I'm talking about things related to check-in needs that we'll have for our kids' space, some TVs we need to buy, obviously new signage outside. We need to do some work to the roof. We want to do some upkeeping and some additional garden work around the building, especially the side of the building that faces 45th. Wanting to put a garden in there to kind of beautify that area. So a lot of great stuff is going to go on over the next couple of months, and really excited about that. We still have ongoing asks right now of different individuals and ministries that we've asked to partner with us, and so keep praying about that. We're about $1.2 million shy of being able to do all we would like to do, but we've been able to raise, just think about it, We've been able to raise about $500,000 in the last 2 months. And so I remain hopeful, and I haven't even asked you for $1 yet, right? This is all outside stuff, and that's coming. I'm going to ask you too, but right now we've been just blessed like crazy by way of partner ministries and individuals. And so thank you to them. Pray for them, pray for God's blessing on them. And I'm so thankful for how the church, how the body of Christ outside of, I'm not just talking about Midtown, I'm talking about the body of Christ has come together and people have been excited to partner, and I want to pray for more. I want to steward this building well. I want to take care of this building, not for our sake, but for generations down the line's sake. I want to be able to do ministry here, and I know that's your heart too. And so, again, just ask that you pray about that. Thank God for what's gone on so far, but I don't believe it's done yet. And so keep on praying about it. Speaking of finances, please don't take the fact that we've been able to raise what we've been able to raise thus far to mean that we don't have needs operationally. All the money that has been raised outside of Midtown has been allocated to renovation costs, renovation needs and dreams, but we still have to pay for the operations. And I know giving towards operations isn't sexy. I know paying for electricity isn't sexy, but we still have to pay for electricity. And so as you consider your role in this ministry, if it's going to be your ministry, or maybe it's not, but God is calling you to support us, please, as the year end comes, we're in the last couple of weeks of December, please consider if God is or isn't calling you to give to us. And if he is, please keep us in mind. And you know how to give to this ministry. We've talked about it enough already, online and also by way of checks dropped off or mailed to the building. So yeah, thank you for your consideration and your generosity even beforehand. You're a generous people, I know, and I thank you for that. Couple more announcements before I kind of make that weird, awkward transition and talk about the membership covenant. One of the things that I'm asking you to keep in mind as you pray for this ministry is wisdom and discernment for us as we move forward. It's a very difficult tightrope to walk. In terms, and what I mean by that is when you're not sure what's going to be open, what's going to be allowed, is there a vaccine coming? If it is, when is it going to happen? How are things going to shape up? How are things going to open up, or are they not going to open up? What ministries do we launch? When do we launch them? We're praying constantly for God's wisdom and discernment, and we ask that you do the same. We need his wisdom, his leading, his direction. We want to steward what he's called us to steward, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to move before the Spirit starts moving. And so we're asking you as the body to pray for us as we continue forward. There is always this inner pressure to launch a bunch of stuff right away, and I don't want to steward that pressure. I don't want to steward anything that God hasn't called us to steward, and I know that's your heart as well. And so just keep us in mind as you pray. What do we need to know moving into January? What we need to know, what I need to know, what our leadership needs to know at this stage is who is in and who is not. We've been working over the last 9 weeks leading to today. And I've talked about how we're walking through this elongated members class. And you've heard me talk about that enough. And now we're at this stage where we're at a point where we've given a few months for people to really consider whether God is calling them to this ministry or not. And we're at a point where we're needing to know, are you in or not? Is this a ministry that God is calling you to? I'm not trying to force your hand. I'm not saying you have to make a decision right now, but moving forward into January, we are at a stage where we have to have a sense at the very least who is going to be the initial body, the initial group, the initial nucleus that's making up Midtown Church. And that's what I want to address today, which leads to the discussion, the layout of the membership covenant. If we were in a members class, just a normal members class, if everything was open and you came to a 1 or 2 Sunday members class, I would come to a place, if I was teaching the class, where I would hand out the membership covenant and I would say to you, if you feel God calling you to this ministry, here's the membership covenant. And I would call you to, if you wanted to be a part of this ministry, to sign the membership covenant. Last week, if you remember, I talked about the one another's. This document essentially asks you to declare your commitment to one another and then carry them out, the one another's, in the context of being a part of Midtown Church. It's a covenant where you're saying, I am willing to be held accountable to this ministry by the people of this ministry while I hold others accountable to it. That's what this is about. And so we're at this stage. So if you sense, if you're asking the question, yes, I think I'm being called to this ministry. If you sense that, what is the membership covenant? What does it hold to? Well, being a part of Midtown it leads to a covenant where we ask the following fourfold commitment of you. What is the fourfold commitment? Well, let me give them to you one at a time. The first of the four is, I will protect the unity of Midtown Church. I will protect the unity of Midtown Church by acting in love towards others, by refusing to gossip, by resolving conflicts using Matthew 5, Matthew 18, 1 Corinthians 6, Galatians 6, 2 Timothy 3, and 1 John chapter 5. And finally, by submitting to the leadership as we submit one to another. That's covenant number one. I commit to protecting the unity of Midtown Church. The second of those four is, I will share the responsibility of Midtown by praying for its spiritual and numerical growth, by inviting non-Christians to attend, by attending a community group. And I use that language of community group. We haven't even rolled those out. I don't even know when we're going to roll those out. But by attending a community group, by warmly welcoming those who visit, by giving regularly, not under compulsion, but cheerfully and as an act of worship. That's the second of the four. I will share the responsibility of Midtown. The third is, I will serve the ministry of Midtown by discovering my gifts and using them with joy and an extension of grace, by fostering a servant's heart in serving God and others, by also recognizing that I am a full-time missionary and the best ministry opportunities oftentimes occur Monday through Saturday. What I'm talking about here is we gather and we scatter, and both are important to us. Sunday gatherings are important, but so is the scattering of God's people. All of us being missionaries as God has planted us in this city to live at this particular time. So that's the three of the fourfold covenant. And then lastly, I will support the testimony of Midtown by faithfully attending and by a growing and godly life. To put it simply, that you live the kind of life that doesn't bring shame and embarrassment to the gospel, that you walk in a manner worthy of the gospel. That's the fourfold covenant. That's the fourfold covenant that you would sign. We're asking you to sign if you are a part of Midtown and want to be a part of Midtown. But here's the thing. As you consider those, I want to remind you of something. And that is, none of these things that I've laid out are an option for a Christian. None of these are an option. Those are the one another's. Those are taking the one another's and putting them in this covenant document and fleshing them out in the context of Midtown Church. And so if you're a Christian, I'm not asking whether or not you want to carry the one another's out. That's a given. The scriptures are very clear in that regard. What I'm asking, and what you have been praying about and maybe need to continue to pray about, is whether the Lord is calling you to carry those out, those non-negotiable one another's. If he's calling you to carry them out here at Midtown. And that's what we've been talking about for the last 3 months. And so are you? Are you being called? Are you being called to this ministry? What is God doing in your life? What's the heart stirring by way of his work in your life to come and be a part of this ministry or not? And if it's not, fantastic. We are truly desirous of only those people who are called. If he's not calling you away, perhaps from a ministry you're involved in now, please stay and bless that ministry, serve that ministry. Be a part of that ministry. Flesh out that covenant that I just walked through. The one another's there. But if he's calling you here, this is what it means to be a part of this ministry. It means that there's no spectating. It means that if you're a member of this ministry, you don't just show up on a Sunday, sit in a seat, and then leave. It means you're involved. It means you love. It means you serve. It means you give. It means you pray. It means you invite. That's what we're calling you to. And if your idea is membership is something else, that's not what we're talking about here at Midtown. And so we want to walk through why we've taken the time to walk through to make that really clear. In addition, the members of Midtown, those who sign this covenant agreement, are called to the following. These are four additional things that we call the membership to. One is the affirmation. The members of Midtown are called to the affirmation of all elders, meaning we are an elder-led church. We're not a congregational-led church. We are an elder-led church, but the elders have to be affirmed by the members of Midtown. And so we raise up those individuals, we vet those individuals who are qualified to serve as elders here using texts like 1 Timothy chapter 3, Titus chapter 1, and so forth. We vet them as an elder group, bring them to the body, the membership of Midtown, and we ask you to affirm them or not. So the affirmation of all elders. Secondly is the affirmation of all lead pastor hirings. Meaning if one day I get fired, one day I drop dead, get hit by a bus, whatever it is, or just retire, although I hope not to retire anytime soon. If that day comes, when that day comes, because we know it's coming eventually, you need to affirm the new lead pastor, which means that all other hirings don't come by way of the affirmation of the body. Those are taken care of, those are vetted, they are hired by way of the elders that are affirmed. That's part of their task. But the affirmation of all lead pastors goes by way of the members of Midtown. Thirdly, the affirmation of yearly budgets. They have to be affirmed. The budgets have to be affirmed by the members of Midtown. Our budgets run on a calendar year, meaning our year end takes place in December, so it just runs concurrently with a normal calendar year. Our budgets are affirmed at our annual AGM, annual general meeting. We bring the budget to you, and we have to live within that budget. And then fourthly, what the members of Midtown are called to is affirmation of any expenditures exceeding 25% of the yearly budget. So let's say our budget is $100,000 for the year, just as an example. If we as an elder team want to spend more than $25,000 for a specific project, we can't do that without bringing things to the membership of Midtown. And so we bring those expenditures, those ideas, those proposals to the body, and they affirm it or not. A quorum necessitates at least a minimum of 10 members in attendance with a 75% affirmation vote required for a motion to pass. That's the same thing for elders, lead pastors, budgets, and so forth. All of this is laid out in our policy manual. Now, I know this is like, why are you talking about this? This is boring. I'm falling asleep. This, again, is what would be a part of any member's class. Thank you. I got a couple guys here that are serving me water. It's awesome. Love these guys. This whole place is full of people. Actually, it's only got a couple. Let me take a sip. But this in a normal members class is what I'd be walking through, because you need to know what we're talking about. And so all of this is laid out in our policy manuals. In addition, this is my last major comment on this. There are certain ministry roles at Midtown that require membership at Midtown, which makes sense. I think it should make sense to you as well. There's certain positions of leadership, elders, deacons, community group leaders, ministry team leaders, teachers of Sunday school, kids classes, and so forth. That requires membership, formal membership, covenant signing membership to be able to lead those classes, lead those events, lead those ministries. There are a number of ministry areas that require no membership at all. In fact, you don't even have to be a follower of Christ. We want to have people involved in certain areas of involvement, ministry involvement at Midtown that don't know Jesus, that they come along for the ride, they serve, they work, they get to know people, and they accidentally just fall into the kingdom because they can't get enough of it. And so there are things that are certainly open to people who aren't members, aren't even in the kingdom yet. But again, you get this. Part of my role as an elder in this ministry, I'm a part of an overseeing group. I am an under shepherd. I have to protect. Part of my role that I will be held an account to one day is to protect the flock. And so when I'm asking questions about, well, who's leading that community group or teaching that Sunday school class or whatever, I need to be careful that we're putting people who have been qualified, who have been vetted into those positions. You as a mom or a dad want to know that. If you go to a community group again, you want to know who is this who's leading this community group. And so one of the first questions I ever ask when we're vetting people is, are they a member? Are they a member in good standing? Are they attending? Are they praying? Are they inviting? Are they giving? Are they serving? And if they're not, then they're not qualified. They're not qualified, they're not a member in good standing, or if they're not a member, then they're not qualified for certain roles. And that's part of the process of making sure we're putting people in proper places and serving you well. One of the questions, and I'll wrap up my time in this very unusual episode today, are there exceptions to this? Meaning, when you talk about the requirements, this fourfold covenant agreement, are there exceptions to it? Meaning, what happens if I can't do certain things in this time in my life? My answer to that is, of course, there's always exceptions. There may be health reasons why you can't be involved in certain things. There may be familial reasons why you can't be involved. Maybe you've gone through a very, very hard time and you need to take a Sabbath from things. Like, the best thing that we can do for you is to serve you by giving you a time of rest where we go, look, you just need to take some time, you need to breathe. The most important thing is just to spend time with your family or friends right now. There are also, people hit a certain stage in life where they can't show up to everything anymore. So it's not so much health, it's just a stage of life. So, of course, there are always exceptions, but they are the exceptions. If you're looking at this, if you're listening to me and go, no, I'm not in, I just want to show up and leave, then welcome to Midtown. We love you. We love you. We want you here. We want to be on the journey with you. But at the very least, this is something that we would call you to pass on for now. And I'll end with this, and I know I'm being redundant, but I'll say it again. If the Lord is calling you to this, He's calling you to this in this context. So as you take the next few weeks before January hits to pray through this, have these things in mind. Am I ready to say yes to this? And if you're not, then here's what I'm going to challenge you with as I wrap up. Just a pastoral challenge. Why aren't you? Why aren't you ready to say yes? Because what I'm asking you to do, as I said earlier, is to say yes to the fleshing out of the one another's that aren't an option for us. We need to be involved. We need to serve. We need to pray. We need to give. We need to do those things. So if you're not ready to say yes to that, why? What is going on? And I don't say that to guilt you. I don't want to guilt you. But I do want to serve you, and I do want to challenge you. We need to be the body of Christ. You're part of that body. You need the rest of the body, and we need you to serve in this ministry, be involved in this ministry for the sake of the gospel in this city. So pray through this. What we're going to do in January, like what we're doing with that survey, is we're going to upload the membership covenant that you can download, sign, and drop it off, hand it in, mail it in, email it in, or what have you. And we're going to put that out because, like I said, going towards our launch, January 24th, we want to have a sense. Who is this initial group making up Midtown? Who are we working with? What's it look like? So keep your eyes open, ears open for that. We'll make sure that we put out enough information to let you know when it goes up, and we look forward to hearing from you. Remember, as I wrap up, remember December 24th, YouTube episode. We miss you. We wish you a huge Merry Christmas. We look forward to being with you this way on the 24th, and we look forward to January, excited for what's next for us. Keep us in your prayers, your thoughts, and all of that. Love you much. We'll see you soon. Thanks.